Welcome. Welcome to the prologue with me. Thank you all. So, welcome to the prologue with me. Thank you all for attending. So, we'll jump right in. Right here we are. Prologue. Nothing is, everything is becoming. Heraclitus. September 11, 2001. It sounded like a garbage truck had dropped out of the sky. The rattling of 1,000 pieces of metal and glass and concrete reverberated around us, piercing a hole into the quiet September morning. But neither I nor my colleagues in the United States Secret Service's USSS New York Field Office had any idea of what was about to happen. The Secret Service occupied the 9th and 10th floors of the 47-story building that was World Trade Center 7. I had gone on investigation. When the first plane hit the tower, truth be told, I was so focused on getting Lenny to agree to put my suspect on a watch list that I didn't even glance up at the sound. "Hey, Lenny, focus," I said when his head started to turn toward that distant boom. "This is important." Then there were gasps. Everyone around us, all the others who had come into the office early that day, slowly stood up or jumped to their feet. When we noticed everyone moving towards the windows, our conversation automatically paused. We got up and followed them. As we gazed out at the World Trade Center's twin towers, the fire was incomprehensibly massive. Its flames poured upward from the gaping hole, engulfing the top of the building entirely. Unable to reconcile the sound we had heard with the destruction confronting us, my mind immediately sought out a mundane, simple explanation. "Maybe it's an electrical fire," I thought. A voice came over the building's PA system, calm and authoritative. "We are evacuating the building. Please head toward the nearest exit or stairwell." No reason was given. No mention of the fire no mention of the fire in the adjacent tower or the noise we had heard. As one, we all headed for the stairwell. An eerie sort of silence hovered over everyone on the walk down. There were no voices, no anxious questions asked, just the sound of hundreds of footsteps descending through the building and emerging into the crowded lobby on the floor. One by one, we paused in front of the lobby's floor-to-ceiling windows. The scene that unfolded before us was like a disaster movie playing out in full color, surreal to the point of seeming fake. Car-sized chunks of burning metal rained down from above, detonating like bombs where they crashed into the ground. Toxic smoke and flames poured out of the gaping hole in the tower, looming over us. The wreckage falling from the sky made escape through the main entrance of our building impossible, and so the security staff were directing everyone to the emergency exits. My gun and my badge, the only two things I made sure to take with me, were useless at that moment. I didn't know that a plane had been hijacked and blown into the World Trade Center's North Tower between the 93rd and 99th floors. I didn't know that the second plane would soon strike the second tower, or anything else that would happen that day. I only knew that as a special agent, I needed help, however I could. As people streamed toward the emergency exits, I immediately started looking around for my fellow agents. I found some of them deliberating in a small group by one of the stairwells and rushed over. "What are we doing?" I asked. "Let's get the FAT kits, FAT," one agent said. FAT kits were the first aid trauma kits we kept in the field office, and which would undoubtedly be needed by anyone trying to escape the fire raging in Tower 1. Without hesitating, we ran back up the 10 flights to retrieve them. The kits contained oxygen tanks, bandages, and a vast array of medical supplies and trauma necessities for helping people in the field, essentially an ambulance in a bag. But At about 26 pounds, the kits were heavy. I picked up my kit, knowing it would be a challenge to get these supplies to the people who needed them most, and looked at the others. There were 6 of us total. With more than 200 agents, we were the largest field office in the country. But I had no idea where everyone else was. We headed back down to the ground floor, the cumbersome kits dragging down our shoulders and cutting into our hands. Since there was no way to get out through the front doors, we used the side doors and ran as fast as we could toward the main entrance of the North Tower as burning metal relentlessly thundered down from above. That's when I heard it. A sound distinctly out of place, especially this close to the epicenter of New York with its high-rise office buildings and skyscrapers. Among the cacophony of destruction already unfolding, twisting steel and shattering glass, came what I only later understood to be the engines of a Boeing 767 revving for the maximum impact. A moment later, United Airlines Flight 175 flew into the South Tower, and then hell got even hotter. The force of its impact between floors 77 and 85 of Tower 2 instantaneously turned what was already unfathomable into Armageddon. As fire and heat and massive chunks of metal fell toward the earth from hundreds of feet overhead, I felt a strong hand grab my wrist and yank me back. It was my colleague, Michael. I hadn't even seen the plane, but he had. We were out in the open and completely exposed. We knew we needed cover, so we broke out into a full sprint back toward our building. There was confusion everywhere I looked. Some people were running, others were walking, some just stood there, frozen in disbelief. As I ran, I saw a man motionless, staring at the destruction above when something large fell on top of him, and then he was gone. Just gone. It still hadn't registered to me that it was now 2 planes that had flown into 2 towers, or how that was even possible or what it meant. All I knew was we had to get to the people who needed help.